What are dimensions and how many are there in the universe? Well, truth is, we might not really know for sure how many there is because as human beings, we're really limited in our capacity to fully understand the bigger picture. So we tend to learn as we go along. Yet little by little more is revealed to us as we progress down our spiritual evolution. There are those who say there is a total of 26 dimensions and others who claim there is only 10. But for the purposes of this video, I'll just be simply focusing on the ones that are most commonly talked about. I'm also not going to be concentrating on the scientific meaning because I want to be able to give those of you who may not understand much about this subject a wider perspective so you can slightly grasp why it is that we are here. So first of all, I want to start off by saying we are not human. We are not this flesh and blood body we see in the mirror each and every day we wake up in the morning. In fact, we are infinite spiritual beings residing in a human body so that we can experience life on this physical dimension, which is Earth. And the sooner we come to realize this truth, the more it will help us understand our true potential. Hence, dimensions are simply places of existence or realities that the soul or soul consciousness inhabits in order to learn lessons and grow more fully. So let's begin with the first and second dimensions, which are commonly known as the unconscious realms. In these realms, there is a lot of density and heaviness, mostly associated with fear mechanisms and survival patterns. The entities or souls who dwell in these lower realms are typically of low vibration themselves. These two dimensions are mainly where all young souls start off in their journey and progress further until they become fully aware of who they are. It's also quite possible that many times when we have a nightmare, it's because our soul during sleep may have astral projected itself down into one of these lower dimensions, and as a result we end up picking up on that fear that is there and or connecting with these lower dimensional beings whom in essence project that negativity into our soul, and that is then reflected back to us in the form of a nightmare. Now let's talk about the third and fourth dimension, which are known as the human realms of reality, or the school of life as it is referred to by many. These dimensions are where we come to experience loss, pain, suffering, hostility, and separation, mainly because we need to experience these things in order to learn and grow wiser. Fear is still present in the third dimension, and there is still a lack of understanding of what true unconditional love is. And that's why everyone in this realm typically clings to the idea of conditional love. They are not able to see past that, or past the illusion of separation that is the third dimension. As we move on into the fourth dimension, we see that the spirit possesses a higher degree of enlightenment, but their ideas and ways of thinking are still bound to worldly things. Another difference here is that people in the fourth dimension are more connected to nature and have a more developed understanding of what true unconditional love is, as opposed to those who are living in 3D. And they also tend to be more spiritually inclined. It is in this dimension that we are also able to manifest things more quickly, whereas in the third dimension, we become aware and get a taste of what manifestation looks like. But because of the lower vibrations that are present, things tend to manifest at a much slower pace. Hence, that is why many more twin flames are now present in the third dimension. They are currently assisting humanity in raising their vibration so that we can move into a four-dimensional way of living. In fact, many twin flames are actually high vibrational beings that have made the journey from higher realms into this lower third dimensional reality. They are bringing in and anchoring the light codes that are necessary in order to help humanity make that much awaited evolutionary leap into the higher dimensions. Thus, they are bringing a little taste of heaven to earth. Now, the ego, which is also present in the 3D, actually starts to dissolve little by little in the 4th dimension. Hence, you cannot move up into the 5th dimension if your ego is still present. So, having said that, let's move on to the 5th through 9th dimensions. These dimensions are commonly known as the awakened realms. These are the realms in which unity consciousness begins, and they can be described as having love, joy, and peace. The souls that live there live in complete acceptance, forgiveness, harmony, and have an utter love for all beings because they understand that we are all the same. These are more than likely the dimensions that many whom have had near-death experiences have seen, visited, and described as simply being heavenly. Lastly, we move into the 10th and higher dimensions, which are referred to as the spiritual realms. Thus, it is said that only the great spirits reside here, such as saviors and other souls whom are worthy enough to enter such high vibrational dimensions. And it's also quite feasible that the supreme being of the universe, which is God himself, resides in one of these unknown dimensions. But perhaps that is something we will come to know later on as we progress further into our spiritual journey, because until then, it will remain a mystery. Life itself requires that we go through many lessons, even if they are painful, all so the soul has ample room to grow. And if we learn those lessons and apply them in a correct manner, we will elevate our soul's essence by raising our vibration, acquiring new knowledge, learn how to love unconditionally, become co-creators, and perhaps one day we can be deemed worthy enough to stand before the Almighty himself and tell him or her, "Thank you for creating me in your image and for giving me the opportunity to experience this journey. For I now truly know why I was brought forth into existence. It was your love that gave birth to my soul, the journey that taught me how to love, and in loving others, I became love itself. And I now return to you, the source of that unconditional love, to become whole again." So you see, my friends, the dimensions are like different grade levels in a school. Each one teaches us something different, but we cannot advance to the next one unless we raise our vibration to match the vibration of that realm. Higher vibrations will always repel lower vibrations. It's like with people. Old souls have a tendency to repel young souls and vice versa, because their energies are not a match to each other. Or in other words, they just don't click. I will talk more about this young and old soul topic in another video, but for now, let me just leave you all with something to think about. There is a passage in the Bible which is 1 Samuel 15, and it goes something like this. When the Israelites were on their way out of Egypt, the nation of Amalek attacked them. I am the Lord all-powerful, and now I am going to make Amalek pay. Go and attack the Amalekites, destroy them all and their possessions. Don't have any pity. Kill their men, women, children, and even their babies. Slaughter their cattle, sheep, camels, and donkeys. Now, the verse may differ slightly in words depending on what type of edition you have, but the message is literally the same. The problem that I have with this passage is that once you understand soul evolution, ego, and energetic vibrations, you will start to see that it's quite impossible for God to have ordered such an act of genocide on an entire peoples. Why? Because one, such a horrendous act would lower his vibration significantly, and two, God resides in the higher vibrations, which are pure and free of ego. Therefore, there is no way that vengeance would even cross his or her mind. Revenge itself is a human trait, and it's mostly present in beings that are still living in ego. It is not godlike in nature. Jesus himself was against violence, so we must assume that God, being wiser and of much higher vibration than Jesus, would also be against such barbaric acts. Many would argue that God is righteous and just, and that's why he punished the Amalekites. But I beg to differ, because anyone who believes this is still thinking in 3D. God is not human, and therefore he or she does not have any of the negative human traits we possess here on earth. It all comes down to understanding energetic vibrations and the ego death that occurs as you move up into these higher frequencies. And in my opinion, this whole Bible passage was either made up to paint God in a bad light, or this so-called all-powerful Lord was none other than a human tyrant who ruled at that particular moment in time, and whom ordered the annihilation and destruction of an entire race. So you can choose to believe whatever you want, but I'm only trying to show you things from a much higher perspective. Don't believe everything you read or see. Instead, go within and meditate or pray to God. Raise your vibration and be open to receiving the knowledge of the universe, for that knowledge is untainted and free of human corruption. So stick with it, and I promise you that the answers will come, but only if you truly learn to open your heart fully and dedicate yourself to your spiritual path. Until next time, my friends, Namaste.